Hey everybody, welcome back to Yankee Rants. Today we're going to talk about something that I hope one day I can stop talking about. I would really like for there to come a time where it's not necessary for me to get on here and talk about how important it is for us to fucking unite. You would think that would be something that I could be done with by now and we can move on to something else. But it's not. So until it is, I'm going to have to keep talking about it. And I would have liked to have done a rant on something else tonight. But until we unite, there's just no fucking point. We need to understand that without unity, without coming together and uniting by the millions, flooding the streets, and demanding the change that we want to see, it's never going to happen. Broken up in little groups the way we are now, we're never going to get what we want. We're doing exactly what they want. We're supposed to be the smartest group. We claim to be the smartest group. I think we probably are the smartest group. Why don't we fucking act like the smartest group? I have a theory on why that might be. If you think about what is the most popular thing to be doing right now in independent journalism, what is it the most popular to be doing right now if you're an independent journalist? It's most popular right now to shit on the Democrats, to over and over again, as you'll see on Redacted Tonight or Jimmy Dore or even Claudia Stauber and Tim Black, some of the more up and coming, rising stars in independent journalism. You'll see them constantly and constantly and constantly and again and again and again and again and on every fucking show rehash over and over and over again how filthy the Democrats are. Run you back through how they stole the primary from Bernie Sanders. Go over and over and over and over again all this information that we all fucking know. I mean, does anyone that is any kind of aware or awake, does anyone of us not know how filthy the Democratic Party is, how filthy the establishment is, how corrupt politics in general in this country is? And let's not forget the Republicans when we're talking about how corrupt and dirty people are. They're getting a free pass right now. And that's another thing. We're allowing ourselves to be manipulated by propaganda. We, again, claim to be the smartest group, but we're getting broken up into little bits, we're getting separated, and we're also getting misled. We, the awake and the aware people, we like to call these others that allow themselves to be led around so easily by the mainstream media and the propaganda, we like to call them sheep. But I would put forth that aren't we acting like sheep? I mean, aren't we showing a little bit of sheep-like behavior right now by being led around by the short hairs and buying all this bullshit propaganda and separating into little groups and forgetting that without unity and without coming together and without rising up and demanding real change, that real change is never even going to happen. It's not even possible for it to happen. We're ignoring how change has always occurred. And again, this is the smartest group, the left. We're supposed to be the smart ones. We're the largest voting sector. If we would fucking unite, we could have all of these things. And some of the things that we need, everyone needs to unite about. Whether you're Republican, Democrat, Pink Flamingo, Flying Crazy Horse Party, I don't give a shit who you are. If you're a voting American and you care about democracy, you should give a fuck about election reform. You should care that an election was stolen in this country. Now, is that why we're beating it into the ground? Because nobody cares? We got to get the right people to care, and we got to get them on the right message. That's the job of a journalist, right? You tell the truth, you expose, you record history. You are the fourth wall, right? You are the fourth border. You're the final border between the people and the government and the establishment and what's actually going on. And your job in that respect is to inform people. And if you call yourself a progressive journalist and you want progressive things, your goal should be to move people towards achieving a progressive agenda. But right now, all of your main progressive journalists, independent journalists that you can actually listen to maybe and trust, because you're not going to find that on the mainstream media, every one of them is beating this dead horse of the Democrats are dirty. Look how dirty the Democrats are. Oh, they're so filthy. They rigged the primary against Bernie Sanders. Look, now they've admitted it in court. Yes, we understand. I think we all clearly understand that the Democrats are dirty. I think we all do. Does anybody not understand that? You know why they do this? Do you know why they're beating that dead horse? I mean, a little bit of it is that their feelings are hurt, but my feelings are hurt too. I mean, every American should feel betrayed that an election was stolen in this country. Even if you didn't vote Democrat, even if you're a Republican, you should be pissed off. because they can fucking rig your side too, buddy. And don't think they don't. They already fuck with elections. There's already gerrymandering and, the amount of money and corruption in politics. It's disgusting, and it's on both sides. Right now, we're focused 100% on the Democrats, and we're ignoring the Republicans. You got a two-player game in this country. As far as major elections go, as far as your presidential election go, it's a two-player fucking game. Now, you can decide to whine and cry and throw a fit and take your ball and go home and decide, oh, I'm going to play by my own rules now. I'm not going to play their game because their game is dirty, their game is filthy, and I'm above that. So I'm going to take my ball and I'm going to go home and I'm going to set up my own game and I'm going to plug a third controller into this two-player game and I'm going to make them acknowledge me because enough people are going to vote green and they'll have to pay attention. You can vote your way out of this. You can vote your way out of this Green Party. That is a fucking lie. That is a lie, and I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I'm not going to hold your hand. I could do that. And maybe if I did that, I would have more popularity. I would have more people at my feeds, but I'm never going to do it. I'm about truth, and truth doesn't give a fuck about your feelings, okay? And if we ignore the truth, we're ignoring any possibility to move forward. Sometimes the truth is going to hurt your feelings, and that's good, because when your feelings get hurt, maybe you want to do something. Maybe you want to start having some real change. Maybe we can move forward towards a progressive agenda of actual change and improve the fucking situation. And that happens by getting pissed off. It doesn't happen by holding your hand. It doesn't happen by me telling you that we're going to be able to make change by sitting still and spinning our wheels and crying on social media. That's just not true. The only way we're going to make any real change is if we fucking unite and we go out and by the millions and demand it. Bernie Sanders must have said it 100,000 times, the way you would explain it to a small child. We never got the message. We didn't understand. You have to flood the fucking streets and demand it if you want any real change. Look at any change that's ever happened in this country, the civil rights movement, women's rights, anything you can name off that was a major accomplishment or a major victory for progressive beliefs or agenda or whatever, you know what I mean? Humanity, basically. Every major accomplishment has been accomplished by millions of people uniting and demanding it. It has never happened by millions of people sitting around and whining and crying over spilled fucking milk. Yes, they rigged the primary. Yes, they're corrupt. Yes, they're dirty. But I honestly believe that the only plan is that it's Bernie Sanders' plan. We have to dem-enter. We have to take over the party. And his plan is not to find a way to work with Debbie Wasserman Schultz. His plan is a way to show us that you vote for these progressives. You vote for people like Tim Canova. And you send Debbie Wasserman Schultz the fuck home. That's his plan. That's what his plan's always been. Why are we still talking about Nancy Pelosi? Nancy Pelosi needs to go the fuck home. Why aren't we finding out how to get somebody running against her, how to unseat her and send her home? Or Chuck Schumer. Why are we still talking about how filthy Chuck Schumer is? Why waste any time on your show about Chuck Schumer? Why not only tell people who's running against Chuck Schumer? How do we unseat Chuck Schumer? How do we get these fuckers the fuck out of there and get a progressive in their spot? That's what we need to be concerning ourselves with. That's what we need to be focusing our intelligence and our energy on. Figuring out how to win by playing their game, because their game is the only fucking game that exists. And you can't get mad and go, okay, I don't like your game. Your game is rigged and dirty. I'm not going to play it anymore. I'm going to start my own game over here because they're going to fucking ignore your game. They don't give a fuck if you don't play their game. They don't care if voting turnout is 12%. They don't give a shit. They'll carry on their pageantry uninterrupted. The only way to do anything about it is what Bernie's talking about. You get in there and you take back the Democratic Party. You can take back the Democratic Party. If you don't like that, if you don't like their logo, you're not a big fan of donkeys, we can take the Republican Party. But you only got two. We got to take one of them, and we got to make it progressive. That is the only way forward. In my opinion. Politics is a small part of what we do. I've said this before. Maybe it's about 20%. I've said 15 before, but I think it's more like 20. 80% of what we do, we can take the high ground. We can be on a moral high level. We can operate up here. We don't have to operate down here where the politicians are, where the corruption is. We don't have to, 80% of the time. the most important part. The street work, the uniting, the coming together, the demanding, the going out in the streets, the showing them that we won't tolerate this shit anymore. That we want single payer health care, we want a living wage, and we want fucking election reform, and we want it right now. And we want this fucking money out of politics. We want a fair and balanced system, and we want our democracy back, and we demand it. It's not a question. No is not an acceptable answer. We're not going anywhere until you give us what the fuck we want. That's how it's done. And we need to be able to come together as Americans, as people that live in a democracy and care about making it a democracy, restoring that democracy, and keeping it a fucking democracy, need to unite on core issues. Everyone needs health insurance. Everybody needs single-payer health insurance. You should not have to be scared that you're going to be ruined if you get sick. Everyone is statistically 2 paychecks away from being homeless, from being completely bankrupt, from losing everything. 2 paychecks. So it could be you. It might not be you right now, but it could be. And we need to start worrying about that. We need to start worrying about the fact that they're creeping up the retirement age. That affects everyone. The fact that they rig elections in this country affects everyone. We should all be demanding paper ballot voting. Democrat, Republican, doesn't fucking matter. We need to stop worrying about these little teams they have us broken up into, because divide and conquer. They do that to keep you weak. All right, if you can't rise above and take off your team's jersey from time to time and do what makes the most fucking sense for you and your family and your future, then you're buying into their bullshit, and you're buying into this brand loyalty of Democrat and Republican that is all bullshit and made up, right? Vote for what makes sense. Vote for people, not fucking party, all right? It doesn't even matter what's next to somebody's name. Just only thing that matters about that right now, and that's only until we fix it by demanding election reform. But the only thing that matters about the thing that's next to somebody's name right now is that if it's not an R and a D, they're not going to count the fucking vote. You know, local level, maybe. That's where the Green Party needs to focus. But if you're in there voting for president or a contested Congress seat that's important, like a Chuck Schumer seat, and we want to get rid of him and you vote Green Party, you just fucked everybody. They probably gave that vote to Chuck Schumer, just like they gave my vote to Hillary Clinton. I've said this before, but in my district, if you look at the final votes, and me and my wife both voted for Jill Stein, I believe my wife, but let's say she's lying to me. Jill should have had 1 vote in my district. She had 0, which means it went somewhere, and I believe it went to Hillary Clinton, or it went in the fucking trash can. Wherever it went, it didn't go where I wanted it to go. And the Green Party knows that, and if they're not hollering for election reform, I don't pay attention to Jill Stein's live feeds anymore, but if they're not hollering for election reform, then they're playing you for a fool. Because they fucking know their election was rigged, and they know they got their 5%. I think they probably got closer to 10 to 15%. But I think it all went to Hillary. I think the vast majority of it was flipped to Hillary Clinton. And I think they know that too. But that's neither here nor there. I'm not here to talk about the Green Party. I'm here to talk about how we need to unite. Parties are bullshit. Unite. These core issues, living wage, single-payer insurance, election reform, money out of politics, these big, big issues, fixing the Flint water crisis, fighting the Dakota Access Pipeline, these huge things that affect all of us, we need to fucking unite, stand up, demand things, and fucking never take no for an answer. Don't you fucking back down. We've got the numbers. This is a democracy on paper. As long as we fucking defend it, it can stay that way. If we don't start defending it, though, you give up on all of that. Go ahead and read up on 1984 and just embrace that shit. Because the further you let it slip towards a full-on oligarchy and you're letting it slip towards fascism at this point, the further you let go of your rights and your democracy and the more you let them take, eventually you're going to wake up and you're not going to recognize this country at all. You're going to live in a place and you're going to raise your children in a place and you're providing a future for your children that is nothing like what you grew up in. The America that you grew up in is already gone. Now, it can be all the way gone. You want to stay divided. We want to come together and save the democracy. That's what the fuck I want to do. That's the point of this rant. It's time to unite. That's all that matters. And until we unite, we don't have any fucking power to do anything else. So let's fucking unite. Seems pretty simple to me, right? All right. I got emotional. I'm sorry. Well, that was my part of the rant. I think it's very important that we unite. I think it's the most important thing. We got to unite. Come Come on. Come on, guys. We can fucking do this. We're smarter than them. Stop letting them outsmart you. Stop letting them corral you into little groups and make you powerless by dividing you. Come together, unite, demand. That's how we win. That's the only way change ever happens.